It's Tracy, and I am back with what I know is going to be a fantastic interview here on Truth, Lies, and Cover-Ups. I got Traci Ruiz with me, and let me tell you why I like you. I like you already because you spell your name with an I, just like I do. Short, sweet, and to the point. Love it. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you, Tracy?
I'm good. I'm good. Okay, so here's a little bit about you, and I just know a little bit. I know there's a lot more to go. 25 years of distinguished police service, retired as one of the highest ranking Latina police officers in the US. You served as Michigan's sole women of color subject control officer. I don't know what that is. We're going to talk about that. And you focus on hand-to-hand combat. Like you're probably one of those people who could kill people with just with their pinky. And so we're going to get into a lot of this. You're on the governor's board of medicine. I know you're doing a lot with elder care and generally breaking barriers wherever you go. So we're going to get into a lot of that because we know each other from the National Speakers Association. You're out there speaking and helping people increase personal safety, mitigating risks, saving lives everywhere you go. Traci, what is the craziest case you've ever worked on?
When you say craziest case, do you mean as a patrol officer? Do you mean as a supervisor? Do you mean as a detective?
Anything,
Which
you can
angle?
answer it any way you want. We'll probably talk about all of them. What do you got?
Okay, I have a couple that come top of mind, and they're straight out of a horror film.
Oh,
It's surreal, and you just don't imagine that people behave in these fashions and people are killed in these ways. So I would have to say the things that stick in my mind are some of the most horrific scenes that I've been to.
oh no. Like what? Can you like tone it down? We don't need all the blood, but like what happened?
Well, for instance, personal protection orders, they're only as good as the paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still, as a victim or a survivor of a domestic situation, you still need to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so a female had had a personal protection order. Her mother was really adamant about her getting away from the aggressor,
Mm-hmm.
and she had kids by the aggressor. She had small children by the aggressor. She also had a teenager by another male. So it was not the aggressor's child, so to
Okay.
speak, this teenager. And the mother was concerned. I should say, the grandmother was concerned because she had care of the children,
Mm.
and the children were dropped to her by the other grandmother in a
Okay.
day. So they have not heard from mother for the day. The one, it would be the paternal grandmother, drops them to the maternal grandmother's house,
Mhm.
and the maternal grandmother's still trying to get a hold of her daughter and can't get a hold of her. So she ends up driving over to her house and she unbuckles the little kids out of their car seats. And the one is old enough to walk, and she goes into the house first, and
Mhm.
grandma is still unbuckling the other child. And the smaller child that can walk, um, she ends up going inside the house, and she comes running back out and she grabs her grandma and she says, "Scary, grandma, scary." And her grandmother says, "What's scary?" And she says, "Scary, grandma, scary." And it was so horrific inside the house. She never noticed it was her mother. But the aggressor had come back to the house. The kids were not there. Obviously, the small children, his children, were not there.
Uh-huh.
He had surprised and got back into the house when he knew the teen would be alone in home.
Mhm.
And he tied the teen to a pole. He proceeded to brutally stab and kill him and tried to decapitate him, but he videotaped all of it.
Oh,
So then when mom came home, he made her watch it before he killed her and then killed himself.
oh my goodness. Okay. So, uh, I don't even know what to say. Like you're saying this and like you did you show up on were you the policeman person that showed up first or how did you end up here?
So we were dispatched because grandma called. Grandma went
Mhm.
into the house.
Uh-huh.
So she obviously recognized, we had no idea there were three deceased persons in the home. The
Uh-huh.
main level, it was the mother and the aggressor. And so she called immediately when she got inside the home and saw what was going on. And when we cleared the house, which is typical safety protocol. We never get complacent. We see our officers do not be complacent, clear the
Uh-huh.
entire home, make sure that nobody else in the house.
Hmm.
And that's we found the teenager in the basement, and I was a supervisor on scene. So I was dispatched to help. I was not the first responding officer, but I was one of the responding supervisors.
Uh-huh.
And there's more to that story. So I'll let you ask questions first, and then I'll go into the other parts.
Wow. Okay. So you show up on scene and I think what I've learned, because I've studied alongside police officers and talked to a ton on the show. Uh you don't know what you're walking into. Like you have maybe a little bit of an idea based on what's gone on the phone, but you're searching the perimeter, you're going inside. I mean, I am completely not cut out for protective uh activities such as that. Like not at all. Can't even, like, even talking about it is making me kind of queasy. So how do you gain that skill? Like what in you, or what in you drives you to do that? Because you have to go against your own personal safety needs to to show up to something like that. Like what's the thought in your mind?
Well, when we take an oath, we have an
Mhm,
oath to protect and serve,
mhm,
and we know that community or public safety is paramount. So we
mhm,
know that we're putting other lives in front of our own. That
mhm,
is a part of the job. So when we're responding to calls, I was one of our safety. When you asked about subject control earlier, subject control is a self defense officer, and I
mhm,
was one of our trainers in a small cadre, and we always train officers in the police academy and train our police officers that hire on the department or any department. It's safety first. So you have to make sure that you're not complacent. We say complacency kills. So we want to make sure that we treat every scene, every situation the same and use good tactics upon arrival, where
mhm.
we're going to park, on approach to the house. Once we get in the house, that's exactly why we cleared the entire home. We were not expecting to find a third deceased person.
Uh-huh.
And that was an entire other horrific scene on its own.
I bet. So, okay, so when you clear the house, like you're like, "Oh, we cleared the house." Like you do this every day. How does that go? Like what's the protocol to do that?
Depends on the given situation. The dispatch call that we had were that there were two deceased parties in the home.
Mhm.
So again, we don't want to get complacent because there could be someone else. We don't know that there's not another
Yeah,
person there with a weapon.
it could be an
So that's why
ambush,
we
it could be anything.
correct. That's why we still do a safe tactical approach. When we get into the house, we're clearing the house, and that is together. We don't have, at that time, we didn't have information on an active shooter. Active shooter, we've completely trained differently now, within the last 15 years easily. We've
Yeah.
changed the way we train. So before it was always, you never go into a scene alone, right? You always wait for your backup partner. And the philosophy when I was going through the police academy in 1992, it was you never go in because a dead cop cannot do any good for anybody else, right?
Mhm,
Well, when active violence incident, which is a completely unrelated situation to this, if that were to go down, we now know every second counts. So we are going in those situations alone. First
mhm.
on scene is going in and we are taking out the threat. So let's stick to just this scene. I don't want to confuse viewers with active violence incident or
Right.
active shooter
Mhm,
incident. So in regards to this situation, again, we don't want to get complacent. We're going in that home specifically to make sure that it's cleared before we are dealing with protecting the actual
mhm.
scene, the crime scene.
Right. Okay. So, when you're clearing, you're looking in closets, you're looking under beds. What else are you doing?
Absolutely. Well, the other thing we want to do is try if we have multiple people where they can clear the house, we'd
Mhm,
want to go immediately to the parties to check for a pulse because if there's any chance to save a
right.
life, we're trying to do that as well. But the
Mhm,
medics will not come in. Keep in mind, I had the luxury of working in a medium sized city where we had a fire department. So they were our medics. We weren't medics and police all in one.
mhm,
So we have to clear a scene and make sure that a scene is safe before the
mhm,
medics will typically come in.
mhm.
So if you had enough officers at scene, you would have multiples clearing the house while others are checking on pulse for the people that are down.
Wow. Okay. So you got the scene clear, and then you're left with just something that's completely gruesome. what do you
Yes.
do? Like, what do you really do next?
We have to protect the scene. Every
Mhm,
piece of evidence is going to be left at that scene. So we want to make sure that we're protecting as best as possible. When the medics are coming in, that is often a problem. We work very closely with the medics,
yeah,
and we are going to, I'll back up. If we find that we have any chance for a pulse or we could save a life, we are going to start working on them as police, the typical CPR.
mhm,
When medics arrive, though, they typically enter into that crime scene, and sometimes evidence is scattered. So
right,
we're very particular. If they beat us to a scene, we've trained together where we've taught them, please don't interrupt the scene. But if it's a matter of saving a life over evidence, they're going to save the life, obviously.
mhm,
So then it's all about preserving that scene for any amount of evidence and getting those witnesses to a safe, secure place so
mhm.
that we can start interviewing them.
Right. Now, what did you do with the little kid who went in and the grandma? Like, where are they? Because okay, they call 911. Are they sitting outside the house waiting for you? What like and then you get there. Like, do you have because there's like victim advocates, are they there? Like what do you do with
Thank
those
you for that.
type of folks?
Great question. Not every agency is lucky enough to have victim advocates. We
Hmm.
have, I'm very, I guess, prejudicial in some way that we have some great victim advocates in the area where I worked. They
Hmm.
are amazing. And we will call them after the scene is secure. Keep in mind, so the scene has to be secure. But
Hmm.
yes, we do actually call victim advocates. And for something like that, where we know the scene is so gruesome and there's nowhere to take those witnesses, we're going to take them back to our precinct. And that's exactly what we did, is take them
Really?
back to the precinct.
Hmm.
We call the victim advocate so the victim advocates can be en route to console the witnesses after we can talk with them for an interview. So it's
Hmm.
a delicate balance, and that's where I can't stress enough. Over and over and over, we say complacency kills. So treat everyone the same.
Hmm.
So when I arrived on scene, I am a supervisor in a police Tahoe. I don't have a cage. That's how our agency worked, where we didn't have, I call a cage as a protective barrier, an area between the front and the back seat. And
Oh.
so typical patrol cars have that barrier where you put somebody under arrest or in your back seat and they really can't get to you in the front.
Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah, okay, right.
State police is different. Their cars are wide open. So again, it depends on which agency you work for. At our agency, some of the patrol cars did not have a cage in the back to actually secure somebody in there.
Mhm,
And so I rolled up, and my officers were processing scene, protecting the evidence, and we're calling our crime scene investigator back. So I have grandmother and the grandkids, and I'm going to transport them because I have the biggest and most comfortable vehicle at the time.
mhm.
And grandma puts the kids in first, of course, in this car seat. She takes from her car and she goes, and I say to her before she enters the car, hang on, I need to pat you down before you get in my car.
Yeah.
And again, we always teach our officers, if you don't have a reason to arrest, if you can't legally search somebody, then before you get them in your car or give them a ride, you always notify them of a pat down, which means we're going to still search for weapons. And it's really a Terry pat, we call it. So you're patting down the clothing to make sure there's no weapons that can harm you, which
Mhm.
would be a gun, a knife, a taser, a drill, you name it.
Sure.
And grandmother ignores what I'm saying. She's really upset. So when I get
Yeah.
there, she's hostile. She's screaming every swear word at the officers.
Mhm.
She talked about how much she hated the police. Her daughter had a personal protection order and we couldn't protect her. So she is up and down the sidewalk ranting, rightfully so.
Uh-huh.
Rightfully so. I mean, can you imagine? She just had to witness her daughter in an absolute other state that no one should ever have to see.
Right.
And so when I pull up, she is extremely agitated, aggravated, and she ignores my words when I say, hang on just 1 second, I have to pat you down. She proceeds to climb in the back of my patrol Tahoe. And as she's climbing in, I literally grab the back of her pants and yank her out of there
Oh.
backwards
Mhm.
because I need to make sure she doesn't have a weapon on her, right? I don't know what I'm dealing with. I
Mhm.
don't know her from Adam. She's been through a horrific situation. I definitely want to console her and the children that they're so small. They don't really know. They've not processed that's mom and dad. They have no
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
But definitely grandma does. So as I yank her out, she is flailing and yelling the whole time as I yank her by the pants backwards. But as I did that, I could see a gun in her waistband. And that's
Really?
exactly what, yes. She had been ranting and raving up and down the street how much she hated the cops. And I know she was upset. I don't take that, fully. She wanted her daughter to be protected, and she felt as though we didn't protect her. And at that time, I let people vent because they have every right to their emotions and their feelings. And I
Mhm.
can't imagine the pain that she was going through at the time.
Right.
So I did immediately latch onto her hands, put them behind her back. We did take the weapon. I ended up transporting her down to the precinct. Of course, I kept the weapon in a secure other area, but in no time was she going to tell me that she had that weapon on her. And she was so upset and hurt, so many different mixed emotions, that this is exactly why I train officers: never, ever, ever trust another person, and you have to trust your instincts, and you have to practice safe practices all the time. And
Huh.
this is exactly why.
So you went ahead and put handcuffs. What was she doing with the gun? I mean, she must have. Did you ever get that out of her?
No, because she wasn't very talkative. She was very, very angry with us.
Hmm.
And what I surmise is she felt that there was some need, obviously, to have a protective measure,
Uh-huh.
clearly, if she's carrying a weapon. So, in that past history, in the past relationship, I don't know all the details to her daughter and that baby's daddy, so to speak, or
Mhm.
babies, plural, daddy. And clearly, there was some reason for her to be concerned about her safety.
Now, at that point, do you know she didn't do it? Or what, like, where are you? Like, you don't know anything. Or
Oh,
what was
yes.
your
He re-
feel on it?
he videotaped it.
Oh, right. Oh yeah, you told me that. Um, where'd you find the videotape? Was he there? Or um,
He So after he
oh, he
had
shot himself.
brutally killed
Right.
the teenage son that was not his, it
Uh-huh.
was hers. He took her upstairs. She had come home. So as he was trying to decapitate the teenager, she had obviously come home. And then he obviously, we don't know exactly how, but we suspect he surprised her.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wasn't expecting him to be there, obviously, because she had a personal protection order.
Uh-huh.
So then there was some type of altercation, and you could tell he made her watch the videotape,
Uh-huh.
and then he killed her and he killed himself.
Wow. And then here comes the grandma. So then what happens after that? Like, you take him down to the precinct, you got victim advocates, you got all that. What goes on next? You're just trying to get to the, I mean, you're trying to already to the bottom of it, or is there more to go? What do you do?
We treat every situation, every death scene is a crime scene and
Mm-hmm.
it's a homicide. And if you treat every situation as a homicide, every death scene, then we say you're less apt to comb over evidence, much needed evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have the crime. We have the luxury of having a crime scene investigator. So we called the crime scene investigator back. He processed the entire scene. Actually, there was a secondary. We called the secondary one back. We immediately offered counseling for the officers the day later, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure all of our officers were safe and fit, mentally fit to go back out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
because it is not the norm. When you see situations like this time and time after time,
Mm-hmm.
you become immune to the violence. And we
Yeah.
want to make sure that people are making healthy choices and they're having healthy outlets to be able to cope with what they're going through, and to be able to get back out into that patrol car and to be able to protect and serve others as
Now,
to the best of their abilities.
because I've never been through a trauma quite like that. What is a typical response? Because police officers they're like, oh, we're tough, we handle this. I mean, I've been in rooms with many police officers, and showing emotions not their jam. So what's the typical officer response to something like this? I mean, do you know how that really comes together, or like how do they process? Because at the end of the day, they're still people, even if they don't want to acknowledge emotions.
Yes. And there is no typical response. Everybody is different. Like you
Mhm.
said, the police officers are human, just like anybody else.
Uh-huh.
So What we've known, and of course, the way I was raised or ingrained into that law enforcement arena back in the 90s,
Mhm.
it was very old school, militaristic,
Yeah.
no emotions.
Hmm.
We've really, I would say, within the last 10 years of the police academies, we've really put a softer, gentler approach for these officers. So you'll see more and more this younger generation that doesn't necessarily want to pick up the overtime. They don't want to be old school and maybe work the 16-hour shifts. They'd rather have their time off. They'd rather have their free time. And they do have a softer approach. What some scenes we might have handled in the past in the 90s and handled it with ease, immediately gone to next scene, next scene, next scene. We didn't have counseling. They weren't calling counseling.
Right, right.
We had, I've had partners that have been in a patrol car not wearing a seatbelt early on in the 90s. You hit your head, you crack the windshield. I mean,
Yeah.
severely, have what you'd probably imagine a head injury, and they're still going back out on the street and patrolling and continuing on. They're not going to the hospital. Those were the old school days.
Hmm.
Nowadays, we've really done a softer approach to provide counseling, provide healthy outlets. Old school days used to be maybe alcohol, people would turn to alcohol.
Yeah.
And we've really pushed, when I was in the police academy and then teaching the police recruits, really pushed the strong mind, strong body, strong body, strong mind. And the gym was always my outlet.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So how did this, I mean, is it kind of just ends with officer counseling and then that's kind of
No,
it? Or what goes on?
no, and then with officer counseling. So we still have a crime scene investigator that's processing the scene. It took multiple crime scene officers to be able to do that. You want to be able to give a break from something that's that egregious.
Yeah.
And then we are consoling, I stayed in the room consoling the grandmother and the children, giving them activities, color crayons, coloring books, because the kids didn't understand what was going on.
Mhm.
And then they hadn't eaten. So I asked if they had eaten. I went out and got them food and brought food back because they were obviously going to be at the precinct for a while until the victim advocates would show up. And then the victim advocates would take over with any needs. So if it was making phone calls to family, other family members, if it's making funeral arrangements, if it's providing counseling to the kids. Grandmother did adopt the kids and she did raise them, and they ended up doing really well. And um, it's good to see that she did love the kids enough to be able to, and she had the capacity to take them on and care for them. But
Mhm.
I can't imagine the pain that she went through. And no one should ever have to go through that. So I
No.
really empathize with her.
So how did you personally recover from this? Or is that the
I
right word? Recover? I don't know if that's the right word.
I think I just became so immune because I was in the thick of violence and I spent half of my career on midnight shift and
Oh.
pretty much half of my career is an investigator.
Uh-huh.
And so, like I said, in the 90s, it was old school. It was very old school. You didn't make it through the police department. You were fired. You
Uh-huh.
wouldn't make it through your training program if you didn't have um, a toughness to you, mental
Mhm.
toughness and physical toughness.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's a very different. I saw the pendulum swing, like I said, about 10 years ago,
Mhm.
even with the police academy where we were much softer and
Mhm.
the recruits coming through. And at one point, they even talked about not having physical fitness, which, multiple of us cops were not in agreement with, because you have to be physically fit and mentally fit to do the job well.
Oh, totally. You can't just hang out at the donut shop. Like
Even though we do like that, I'm going to admit, we do like the donut shop. who,
wow.
who beats a
Okay.
good donut?
So well, totally. Okay, so who or how'd you start to specialize in hand-to-hand combat?
Well, interesting enough, that's another good story. So I was always tough, an athlete through college, and had been a college athlete and really loved the physical portion of,
What'd you play? What sport?
yeah, softball, basketball, and running.
Got it. Okay.
Softball was my favorite, but running was where I ended up. I ran at college.
Okay.
So moving into the police academy was a cinch. I thought the physical fitness part was a cinch because I'd already been used to the rigors of college
Mhm.
athletics. And when I got there, go back to your question again, because I don't want to go off track. I want to
Oh,
stay on.
how you came to specialize in hand-to-hand combat?
Thank you. So I always liked the physical fitness part of things.
Mhm.
And I was in my training program. And once I got out of there, It was one of my first police calls that I had taken on my own. So you have a trainer at our agency, you had a trainer. So there were two of you in a patrol car, and the trainee would be driving and routing and doing all the
Mhm.
orientation, and then the trainer would be grading you.
Mhm.
And when I got out on my own, you're so excited about getting out on your own and having your bag sitting in that passenger seat instead of another police officer. It's a proud
Okay.
moment that you can actually go out and handle these calls on your own and the way you want to handle them. And so I get to a call. We're called to a domestic, and it's a domestic disturbance, two males, and that's all we have so far. So it's in an apartment complex, and I'm first on scene, and I call out that I'm on scene. And my partner is about, probably at that time, he was probably about 255 pounds, 6'4". And he calls out that he's on scene. So I'm already out of the car. I'm up the stairwell. And as I'm entering this apartment complex, I've got a landing that I need to go up these stairs to. And I start to approach like the first one or two steps, and my partner's not there. So I start here. I mean, I'm hearing the commotion. They're screaming, and it's then
Mhm.
dispatch updates the information to say it's a fight over drugs. So we know we
Um,
have drugs. Typically,
mhm.
we train that drugs equals guns.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know I'm going to be waiting for a backup partner because it's a domestic, anyways. We're going to be waiting for another partner. So I've already made my way up the stairs, and I'm pretty much at the top of the landing. Not a good tactical place to be, but I can hear, and I'm outside of that door. Typically, if someone's going to shoot, they're shooting through the door. So we always train our officers to approach on one side or the other of the door. So I'm
Ah.
on the landing, I'm on one side of the door. My partner's not showing up yet. So I get on the radio and say, "Hey, where are you?" And he's like, "I'm here." I'm like, "Nope, you're not." And they're fighting. It's getting more heated.
Mhm.
And just as that happens, there out barrels this big guy, and he is probably 5'8". He's pretty short, but he's probably 245 pounds, just a
Oh.
huge barrel belly, super thick. And it's winter, and he's sweating profusely, and he's unclothed.
Oh.
So that's a problem because he's sweating profusely and it's winter. And so, obviously drugs are already on board in the system. I mean, that's the red flag. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
already, I'm there. I'm committed. I'm in the space where he's at. He's out the door now. And I do not want to be on a landing fighting with somebody right at the top of the landing where he has advantage. So I immediately move up the stairs. So we are face to face, and I downplay. So I'm trying to de-escalate the situation and just play off like, "Hey, have you heard any noises? The neighbors have been calling in." And
Oh,
I'm
really?
thinking, where is my partner? He's not here yet. So, anyways, I'm asking him about the noise, and he's like, "No, no, 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 there's no disturbance." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, mind if I, talk to you a little bit more, or come on in?" And he's like, "No, no, no, everything's fine." And then finally, my partner arrives, and he's up the landing, and I'm like, "Yeah, can we come in?" And I've already got my foot in the crest of the door, and he doesn't know it, but I've got my foot in there because if he starts to shut the door, I'm going to try to keep my foot in there so
Sure.
we can at least make sure there's nobody else that's harmed inside that
Mhm.
apartment, because we have liability at that point that we're called. So my partner gets in there. We are picture perfect. Like we train our recruits at the academy. We have both of the people looking at each other, and we're behind them, right? So I have a eye to my partner, and there is, as we move around this, you can't see around this doorway, but as we move around, it's a small little kitchen with maybe enough for a four-chair dinner table, that tiny. And this other guy is on a stool. So we know we're dealing with two people at that point in time. Of course, I ask him if I clear the house. Mind if I take a look around? Are there any other people? So I take a quick sweep. There's nobody else. It's a tiny little apartment. And I go back into the kitchen. And again, my partner and I are facing each other. It is picture perfect. We couldn't have trained any better. Couldn't have, if we were videotaping it, it would have been picture perfect to show at the academy on what to do. Well, at the time my partner is running their licenses, checking for warrants. So we're facing each other. These two guys are, facing away. Their backs are turned towards me, right? So
Mhm.
I'm thinking everything's good. But I immediately look to my left where the kitchen sink is at. And next to the sink is a three-tiered rack. It's a wide open rack. It's like a potato bin. And I
Okay.
look over, and I just happen to glance, and at the same time, this guy that was so big was on a stool. We had him seated, and he leapt like a gazelle. I've never seen him be that big, that fast,
Uh-huh.
leap. And his hand immediately went into that bin because there were things in the bin. And all I could think of was gun, 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 gun.
Sure.
So I immediately latch onto his arm, but he's sweaty, right? And he's not clothed. So the problem is I slide right down. And
Oh.
as his hand comes out of the potato bin, I can see 3 plastic baggies. So I know we're dealing with some type of powder, a drug, obviously,
Yeah.
narcotic, because he is now possessive over this. So I go to latch onto him again. I'm just slipping down his arm. I'm trying to give him knee strikes. And my partner immediately looks up, and you can see the licenses go flying because he's on the radio, calling out, trying to get warrants and stuff. And we go hands on. So we're not, dispatch has no idea we're fighting, but I'm fighting with this guy. And he literally picks me up. He picks up my partner and throws him across the room like a rag doll.
Oh,
Mind you,
wow.
I said my partner's like 255, six foot
Yeah.
four. So I knew, okay. And then he picks me up and I am fighting all the way, but I can't get good grips on him because he's not cold and he's sweating profusely. He's like
And
a sweaty.
how tall are you? How tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
5'7".
And
Okay.
at the time I was probably 120, 130.
Okay. All right.
And so he takes me up. Have you ever seen those shelving units in an apartment complex that have towels? They use them for linen closets and they're in between the bedrooms or the bathrooms.
Uh,
Nothing fancy,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
they've got
Wire
bifold
ones.
doors.
Yeah.
They've just got bifold doors. These were actual shelving units, like wood shelving units, but he
Okay.
takes me up underneath and he literally clears all of those with my head. Like I'm still
Oh,
fighting him and we
uh-huh.
are we are going at it. My partner's behind him trying to get him to the ground, but we're in this narrow hallway. It's an apartment, so it's super narrow hallway.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of room to work with. And I'm still fighting him, but we've knocked out all the shelves. And finally, we're to the ground. My partner gets him to the ground, but we can't get his hands behind his back because he's on them and he's sweaty and we can't latch onto him well. So we are still, but I know at some point I need to finally get to my radio. So I get to my radio, calmly let dispatch know, like, hey, we need more units here. And the dispatcher, I worked with her all the time. So she knew, like, I don't usually get on the radio. And somebody's like, which unit is that? Because they couldn't tell. We were obviously out of breath and still fighting.
Mhm.
And the dispatcher knew right away. She's like, it's Traci and you need it. And she's dispatched them to our address. But by the time we get there, this guy has been able to literally get the drugs and flush them down the toilet.
Oh,
And after that fight, I knew, like, thanks to my partner was much larger. If that guy wanted to kill us that day, he could have
yeah.
easily, very
Sounds like it.
easily. I didn't let him disarm me. My partner didn't let him disarm. We were definitely protecting the weapons, but we never want to be on offense, right? We want to be
Right.
on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, that day, it turned out okay. We had the drug team come. They, seized some evidence, and we were able to charge him. But he actually worked for another city in a city capacity. So he was worried about losing his job and he had a cocaine habit. So he had 3 ounces of cocaine in the baggies. And that's why I was trying to get him flushed to try to,
Uh,
cover up what was really his drug habit.
uh-huh.
So from that point on, that's a long story of from that point on, I vowed, like, I am going to learn more tactics. I am going to take this from here to here as far as tactical levels. And we didn't have any other women. We had one in the academy, but we had very few that would ever, it was typically men that were training in those as subject control officers.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately applied and went on our team for our police academy, which is a separate, employed through a college, and then also went on our police department team. So it was a small
Wow.
cadre. So that's subject control officer. It's really self-defense. It's the hand-to-hand combat and we did mixed martial arts as well, and
Uh-huh.
ground fighting, ground tactics. So that was my one fight. I looked at God. God looked over us that day and it all wound up being okay. But I said, I obviously didn't know enough and I was just brand new in the
Yeah.
car alone. Yeah. So that's what
Wow.
led to my long history of being able to protect others. So I really, not only did I want to take that to another level for myself, but I wanted to be able to help other women, empower other police officers to know when you get out there, people are serious. When they're ready to fight you in uniform, they're at a different level mentally.
Oh, totally. Right. Because I mean, anything in uniform, you're gonna get your ass kicked sooner or later. Like you're not gonna win. There's no way. And okay, so let's talk about that. What would you do different now? Like good sized female, like not small, right? And big old guy. What's your number one tip? Like if I was walking down the street, right? Like what do you do? What's the number one thing?
Well, do you want, if you're walking on the street, or do you want, if I were back in that situation again?
Actually, we've gone into that situation. Let's go back to that situation. What would you do different now?
I would have gotten the radio sooner. I
Uh-huh.
typically was really good about having my own affairs, or handling my own business. Really, typically didn't get on the radio a lot. Obviously, when I was dispatched to calls, I would give an update, but neither one of us got back on the radio. And our dispatcher was so good at the time. that she did regular checks, and she would call them, safety checks, but she'd
Mhm.
check our status. So she'd call our unit number 3 Adam 13, checking your status. Well, luckily she did that with us. And we should have already been on that radio saying, or my partner, could have gotten on the radio when I was already
Mhm.
hands on with a guy. That's the time that we should have been on the radio.
Uh-huh.
And that he or I, any opportunity, but we just didn't. We were hands on the whole time, and it was all we could do to get to our radios.
Uh-huh.
So if we had to do it over, I think that would be one way. We had everything set up picture perfect, never imagined. And when I looked over at the sink, I had not seen the cocaine. I
Mhm.
didn't see those baggies. They were hidden underneath other flour bags and
Wow.
potatoes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this guy obviously knew it was there. He was already having a fight with the partner in the apartment. And luckily, we did yell at that guy and tell him to stay seated. And he stayed seated the whole time, because
Mm.
we would have really had our hands full if he stepped in.
Wow. Okay. So then, okay, let's say I'm walking down the street and attackers, what do? They come from the back usually, right? Because that's what they do,
Nope,
I
not
would guess.
always.
Not always, you don't think.
Nope,
Okay.
no,
So
nope.
what would I do? No matter where someone comes from, what's plan A?
Well, it depends on how they grab you, if they are just talking to you, but I am a proponent of looking at people in the eye. So I'll call them aggressors or suspects.
Mhm.
They don't want to be observed, and they want whatever's easy access. So remember that easy access to a potential victim,
Mhm.
easy access to a car, easy access to a home. That easy access is when we leave our window open on our home
Yeah.
and leave our doors unlocked. We
Mhm.
leave our car unlocked. When we're walking down the street, many people think, oh, if I just don't look at them, like if I put my head down and I have no eye contact, I'm going to be okay. Gut instinct, I always say, trust your gut. If your gut tells you something's wrong, it likely is wrong.
Mhm.
So I don't want you looking down. I want you looking at what you, even if you're concerned about something,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you have to stay in that situation, right? So let's say you're exiting. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're exiting an office building.
Okay.
It's nighttime. It's
Mhm.
a parking lot that's lit up, but you've just left and the doors are still open and there's other people in the building. And you start to walk out in the parking lot and you notice somebody by your car, and your gut instinct tells you something's not right. I don't like this. I have an uneasy feeling. I don't want to go to my car. Some people will still continue that path, even though they don't feel well about it.
Mhm.
I say, turn around, go back in that building, go where there's other people. You want
Mhm.
other people around.
Mhm.
So if someone's approaching you, if you're already in it, if you are in close perimeter or proximity of someone else, we call it you're in it now. And
Okay.
so I want you looking at them. If it's in a passing situation where you can stay on a path where you're passing, you could easily say hi. If you're in an elevator, you could say, what time is it?
Mhm.
Make small talk. If you can make small talk, if you're stuck somewhere with them, if you have a way to, we call it disengage or get away, that's your job.
Mhm.
You're not in a position where you're hired to get beat up, right?
So
That's not
try
your
to not
job.
fight. Try to not fight first, like be smarter.
Well, you're smart, but if you are attacked, I want you to fight.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
teach, I come from the camp of fight,
Uh-huh.
because people want easy access, right? These aggressors want easy access. They don't want a victim that's yelling. So that's
Mhm.
another tip that I tell people. I want you yelling, get attention. I don't want you screaming. Nobody pays attention to screaming. I want you
Really? Uh-huh.
yelling words, whether it's help, stop, fire, help me, whatever you want to come up with.
Uh-huh.
But I want you, the more you can yell the words and get them out clearly, people are going to hear you and pay attention, but it also helps you remain breathing and not pass out.
Right.
That's what people don't think about as well. So you want to
Huh.
make sure that you maintain a breath,
Mhm.
and so you can stay breathing and stay in that fight if necessary. Now, the goal is to get away. So if they are coming at you and you're in it, like I say, you're in it, you're in close proximity, you can't get away, and they are coming specifically at you, you could provide something to them. So if you have a phone in your hand,
Uh-huh.
if you have a purse, if they come up to rob you, I always tell people, throw that away from you, and don't
Oh,
drop it at your feet. I want you to throw it left or
so
right,
they have to go get
but
it.
I want you to throw it so they have to go get it. And that's your distractionary window to get away and take off.
Uh-huh. Oh, that is super smart. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I like it. I've actually never heard that before. I've heard a lot of stuff, but never that. So, anything else like just another tip or two on that?
Well, I want to make sure that you're yelling words, not
Mhm.
screaming. That's one of the biggest things. If you're approaching a car, there are several other things. We could be here, I could be here for
Sure.
8 hours
All
telling you
day.
other
Yeah.
things, but specifically, think about being smart. If you're going to your car and something doesn't feel right, many of us who have key fobs, remember those key fobs, typically you press it once and it's only your car door, right? So I would tell people, don't press your button twice because you don't want the passenger door open, for someone unsuspecting on another side if it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
Another tip that I would say is make sure when you're going places, park in a well lit area. So if you're going out during the daytime, I want you to park under a parking lamp anyways,
Oh,
because when you come out, you never know if it's going to be dark or not. And then you have that light to protect you.
uh-huh. Wow. Okay. All right. Man, that's good. Okay. Now, um, I got one or two more questions just to wrap up here. So you're an investigator, and I'm a body language expert. I like to focus on who's lying. What's your number one tip to find a liar, to spot a liar? What you lean on?
I like the body language,
Mm-hmm.
number one. But when I was interviewing as an investigator, I would always have people write me statements.
Oh,
People have a really hard time lying while they're writing,
yep.
much harder than it is with a body language. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll sit there, believe it or not. And this might surprise you, Traci, but sometimes people lie to the police.
What?
So they can sit there and they can lie to your face, and they can sit there and they can cross their legs, cross their arms, and say, nope, wasn't me.
Uh-huh.
But I have them write out a statement and tell me what happened. And in these statements, you'll see there's gaps of time where the crime was
Yep.
usually at.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my best. I would love for them to write a statement. That was my number one. So if they didn't want to write a statement, of course, if they said, nope, I want to talk to you, then I would, it's just like everything else in business right now, right? We're in the speaker business.
Mm-hmm.
We cater to our clients. We want to give them the best customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So when people come in, whether they're a victim, witness, or a suspect, I want to give them good customer service, right? The nicer I am, the easier it is to get information. If I go
Exactly.
in hard,
Mm-hmm.
if I go in hardened, throw my book down and say, you've already been arrested, now give me the information, doesn't work well. And I think that is where sometimes we as women in law enforcement, we have a little advantage
Mm-hmm.
because we will take the time to build those relationships. Sometimes my peers, and that's not everyone, but sometimes my male peers would get a little more impatient, or
Mm-hmm.
it was a control, like I'm in control situation, and they'd go in there and show who's the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'd walk in as the nice one. Do you want any coffee? Can I get you some water?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do for you? And let's have a chat. I know sometimes people make bad decisions. It doesn't mean they're bad people.
Yep. Yep. Oh, well, who came up with that whole tactic was Hans Scharf back in World War II. And he was a German guy. Have you heard this? You know this.
No,
Yeah, he was a German guy, and he would get these American POWs and get all this information out of them because his wife made pastries for him. And so he had this whole other tactic, because before then it used to be like go in hard. And anyway, so your tactic is like it started being popular back in World War II. Another interesting fact about Hans Scharf, at Disneyland, he painted the mural as you walk through the Cinderella's castle. Like there's that tunnel there, and he painted that.
very cool.
I know.
Didn't know that.
So I know. Like, who would have thought? Interrogation leader and painting Cinderella's castle. So, oh my gosh, too good. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up here. One last tip for everybody. What do you got? If you could leave people with one final idea or reinforce something you just said, what would it be?
I would say trust your instincts, trust your gut. And when I provide all women self defense classes, I would always tell them trust your instincts, whether you're a mother or not. People usually have motherly instincts. And even for men, this goes for in general for everyone. Trust your instincts, trust your gut. If something tells you the situation doesn't feel right, it's likely not right. And I want you to get away. You were not in it for the fight. Keep
Got
that in
it.
mind as a civilian, or what, a non-police officer. Even when we as police, and I'm retired now, but even when I took that oath to protect and serve, that didn't mean we had to stay in it and get killed. No one said we had to get pummeled. and then, just take it. We still have a duty at some point we can retreat as well.
Wow. Okay. How can people get a hold of you? Because you're out there speaking, you're training people, you're up to really cool stuff. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I should say I work with first I'll let you know I work with organizations who want to enhance their workplace and personal safety, mitigate risk, and save lives. So target audiences are typically corporate, and I'm happy to work with any organization. They can get a hold of me on LinkedIn is usually the best way, at my name, TraciRuiz, and it typically has a little red bubble and a police car. So I should be easy to find. I also have a website at my name as well at TraciRuiz.com.
I love it. All right. All right. Hey, Traci, thank you for coming on Truth, Lies, and Cover-Ups. You are fantastic.
Thank you for having me, Traci. It was a pleasure.
All right. Okay. Hang on a second. Stop.